On the special series for the AIA Austin, for the Austin Homes Tour, I have the pleasure of having April Clark and Ed Richardson with me from Richardson Clark, and we are going to be discussing Daniel House. Now, this home is really cool. Very interesting home, some fabulous features. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm really excited about this house. It is very cool. I'd love to start out though with tell everybody a little bit about yourselves and how this firm even came about.
Sure. It's Clark Richardson Architects, to put that out there. And Ed and I are husband and wife. We met in graduate school at Yale University in 2000. We went to graduate school together. We started the practice in 2010. So we're on our 14th year.
Before that, we had talked together.
Yeah, we talked.
And studios.
Yeah, different schools, different states.
Oh, okay.
We came together with the firm. We do mostly residential, probably 90% at this point in time, some commercial. But we love doing custom homes. And so that's our passion, and the kind of primary interest in our firm is projects like this.
Yeah, geographically, I grew up in New Orleans. April's from Santa Fe. And so Austin, if you look at it on a map, is almost halfway in between.
I was about to say.
And in a lot of ways, we felt like it was a mix of a sort of Southwestern and Southern culture, this Austin itself. So it's a neat thing for us and part of how we felt at home here.
So you compromised on where you would be because it could have been either one. How did you win the naming protocol?
Because I started the practice and then Ed joined me a year later.
There is, it's funny, there's actually a Richardson Clark that's a graphic designer out there somewhere. Once in a while we get their emails. And so this works just fine.
Do you know, it's funny you say that. I have, my name being Adrian Ramsey, I have in the UK, there was a Greens politician called Adrian Ramsey. And every now and then I get tagged to be on a Instagram feed, and it will be this whole thing on politics. Wow. And because if you Googled him, he comes up everywhere. And I'm like, oh, I've been invited to collaborate on this feed. And it's got nothing to do with me. It's really weird how the internet works. The algorithms and stuff like that, and how people can mix it up. I love that New Orleans part and also the Santa Fe part. I think that's because both are so diversely different, but they have different story narratives. And so that piece of pulling that together as well, so that you get this wide perspective of where things come from. I think it's great. And Austin's the perfect place for that as well.
Yeah. We always say that I'm the fire, the desert energy, and he's the swamp, the water energy, and Austin is the music in the middle. So it works.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's really cool. So take me from that to the Daniel House. And with the Daniel House, obviously, as you said, you love doing this kind of residential style and working closely with people. Tell me about the brief for the Daniel House, because we get clients and these clients ask us for things that sometimes we would have never imagined. So if there's anything in there that you've gone, really, we've got to put that in? Okay, that's great. And you're always working to your client's brief. There's always the brief, the budget, the environment, the rules. Tell me about that kind of journey and what the brief was and what you were executing.
So this was a client that had lived on in the west side of town in a sort of bigger house.
More suburban neighborhood.
Yeah, a little bit more suburban. She had a family home. And at the time we did the design, she had a son who was probably a junior in high school. So he was in the house, but wasn't going to be necessarily there that long. And I think for her, this was really about moving back to the city. And for folks that come and see the house, one of the things we love about that house is how much it shows her personality. She's got a real love of music, and so her art is inspired by music, but she's even got concert tickets from when she was younger that's up in the house. So I think in a lot of ways, this was like a return to a certain lifestyle for her, a certain type of engagement. This property, for folks who don't know Austin, is very central. So we're one block back from Barton Springs Road, which is like one of the big kind of central roads right by Lady Bird Lake. And one of the things that was fun about this is we had the privilege of searching for land with her.
Yeah, so we started, actually the builder was on board before we were. So the builder knew the client and kind of recommended us because he'd worked with us before, and he knew that our aesthetics were in line with what she was looking to do. And so he recommended us, and we actually shopped properties with her. So helped her evaluate a couple different properties before landing on this specific site also.
That's very cool, because that's a relatively unique opportunity. Whilst everybody probably thinks that you get to almost choose the property as well, but to be able to do that, to be able to work through the different aspects of different sites and what they would offer and where the compromises will be and all those pieces. So how many sites did you look at?
We looked at two that she was seriously considering putting in an offer. So they were available, that she was, ready to just move on to Austin, especially at the time. If something came on the market, it was already too late. You had to know about it before it got on the market.
This was 2019.
So, yes, 2019. So pre-COVID. And so we'd get the call. It's like, oh, come look at this. We've got this, like, it was really quick, fast paced. What are the pros and cons here? What can be beautiful or amazing about this property, or what might be a constraint? And so we looked at it really quickly.
I would recommend to anybody listening, if you can involve your design team in property selection, do it. Absolutely. Because it's golden, because the design team looks at it with completely different eyes, and the build team, just build management as well, completely different eyes than you do when you're actually in the excitement of trying, or even in the pressure of trying to find somewhere. It's one thing to be excited about it, but in that environment, the pressure was huge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you have to be quick to make the decision, or you lose the property, you have to make sure that it is going to be able to sustain the lifestyle that you want really quickly. So the feasibility and the speed that you're able to evaluate it just really matters too.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. And we all got to know each other really well at the front end before we even started putting pen to paper.
Yeah, you would have got a different depth of understanding as you put up the pros and cons of each property from her. It's like getting the brief without getting the brief. You're getting the person. Yeah. And under a reasonable amount of stress, I imagine, because she was feeling the pressure of having to move into that to get going. That's a cool journey. That's a very cool journey.
I think for her, the brief was really, for the most part, focused about a house where she was mostly living on the first floor. So there's a living room space, a kitchen and a dining, and a principal bedroom suite. And that's really her world. There's a sort of an office and 2 bedrooms upstairs, but they're smaller. So effectively, this was about a single-story house. And she really wanted the house to be, this kind of ties into some of the design moves later, but she really wanted the house to be more or less on one level. You'll notice there's a little bit of a couple steps down when folks visit the house from the entry down into the formal living room. But for the most part, the rest of it's on one level, in spite of the site.
In spite of the site.
Yeah, ultimately this property, it's a very steep site, and she selected and fell in love with it because of where it is in the city. It's so close to downtown, so close to Barton Springs. She can just have this different lifestyle than she was leading suburbs, where she had a huge house and was able to spread out everywhere. Now it turned into, okay, you have to make decisions that matter for a very small property that's very urban and connected to downtown. There's beautiful downtown views, and she can just get anywhere she wants to really easily. And so it's all about making sure that everything that she wants, that we're still able to do that in a small home and small footprint and very, very steep site, and just making sure that it still works, that she can get her car up the driveway and things like that.
It's interesting. There's kind of 2 constraints that came out of that existing site. One is that we had a big protected tree kind of on the right-hand side of the lot when you're facing it. And so that tree and the driveway underneath it couldn't be moved. And so that was a constraint. So really, when you look at the house, and there was a smaller house there before it that it got taken down, but that driveway more or less had to stay exactly where it was. So you're looking at the finished floor level of what was there before. And then beyond that, the site went up about another 9 feet to the back corner of the lot.
Yeah.
And so probably the biggest thing you'll see about this house is the placement of the pool all the way in the back of the lot, and that pool working with a sort of steel and concrete retaining wall system to help us carve that dirt out and basically make a flat site.
Yep.
And that's a pretty aggressive thing. That was really part of the original brief.
So you had a reasonable amount of site works, but then all around the tree and the driveway as well. Those were set points, and 9 feet's a reasonable height change. It's a whole story in a house, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
It was not nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh, that's cool. I find this part of it really interesting because of the fact that you did get to view other sites and that you got to know your constraints, and then you've got to design those in your head in the moment when you're saying, if you're going to go here, this is what we're going to have to do. And at some point, somebody's probably asking you also, what's that going to cost? And you're adding that on to the value of the site as such. So if the site's 1 million, have you made it 2 million? What's happening with that whole dynamic, and how long will it take to do it? And will the neighbors allow it? And all the things that come into play that people just see a beautiful home when they come past. They don't get what just even happened to be able to say we can position it here and work this way. Very cool. Then I suppose the next point will be then we're going to have this on the tour. When it's on the tour, as you said, it's really close to downtown. So it's within the easy walking zone of being in and out of town. Who knows where everybody will get to park, but as the AIA in Austin organize these things, this is all part of how you select a home for the tour, is we're going to park somewhere. We're going to roll up. We're not all going to come in limousines and just be dropped off. So I will, but maybe not.
Just you.
Yeah, just me.
I hope you will.
I hope I will too, but it probably isn't going to happen that way. I'll probably be walking from town. Yeah, with that, we're going to get to park in the street or somewhere very close to it, and then we're going to make a walking journey to it. So tell me about discovering Daniel Residence as you come from the street, and then please take me in the gate. And maybe I'll get you to share that photo, but at that point, but take me through the neighborhood, the sensibilities of it, and then what we're going to experience as we arrive. Even before we get in, we're on the street. What should we be looking at? What should we be looking for and understanding about the house in its context? And then when we go up the path or up the driveway, I'm not sure how they're going to let us in, but probably up the path, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll go through a journey through inside as well.
So this is again, Daniel Drive is this first street back from Barton Springs Road. And then there's a series of long streets that run in parallel, and they're ascending in height. And most of these lots are looking back at downtown. Sort of interesting runner's knowledge. This is actually part of a really famous running route called the Marshes, named for a running couple. And this is actually the first time I've been up this lot. You run slowly on what would be Daniel Drive. And when you turn up to the next street, you sprint. And then you run slowly again. And then you sprint, and you kind of go zigzag style all the way up.
So the runners of Austin will be arriving by foot.
And they'll be in the slowly piece, but they will have sprinted. Yeah.
I'll walk with you.
but more or less a tree-lined street, a lot of small houses on smaller, compact lots. Most of Central Austin is narrow and deep. And this is some of the things that tied into the homeowner. Grew up in Lafayette, but she spent time in New Orleans.
She's in Louisiana.
And so there's a connection to, for us, some of the architecture in Louisiana, which was really a housing typology that was made in response to these narrow lots. It's called a shotgun typology.
Yeah.
And it's really about a house that's kind of room after room or enfilade procession without hallways. And so that became, in a lot of ways, the core of how we thought about the design.
Yeah, and so I think when you come up from the street, the first thing that's evident is, because it is a small urban lot, is you take advantage of every single bit of the property. So you'll enter in past a fire pit and a space that can be used for outdoor gathering automatically. Every square inch of this property is situated in a way that it can be programmed, basically, so that she can gather in different ways in different areas, different times of the year. Austin in the fall and spring is amazing to be outside, and most of the winter time too. Summer, you're going to be in the pool, but there's a place for that also. So you actually walk in past the kind of the fire pit area, or the resident will be driving up to the house and entering through the garage. And so what's a little bit different is you don't actually see the front door from the street at all. It's the street is, or the entrance is a side entrance. And so the front of the house is a little bit of a mystery until you move through these kind of layers of kind of programming.
Yeah, and I think, and one of the things we like about modern houses, to balance modern houses neighborhood, is really making them feel welcome to the street.
Yeah.
Having porches, outdoor courtyards, and really this sort of front facade of this house is, you're seeing a sort of living room space, which is intentionally quite open to the street.
And here we'll share a picture.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so here you're seeing that kind of center view. To the left there is the pedestrian entrance gate, which you enter down below this kind of front seating courtyard that has a water feature. You'll circulate around that with views up and views into the living room, go up a couple steps, and then you walk behind that formal.
So we're going to come in and then come past that and go to the right. So
Right.
yeah, we're going to head to the right and then come across the whole front facade of the house, essentially to go to the front door. Cool.
Yeah, so similar to a shotgun, you're moving through the programmatic spaces to get to the thing that you're going to. So it is, you're moving through kind of these slices.
Yeah, it's going to really set up a journey of engagement really quickly, not just follow the path in a straight line to the door, but we're going to take you on the sort of a meander, not a meander, but a journey too. And then the front door is going to reveal itself a little bit later.
Yeah. Some of my favorite things too is that when you're moving through, like this client has an amazing collection of art. Like, she's very flamboyant. Like, you'll see those things before you get to the front door. So you'll see glimpses inside her living room, and you'll see this kind of pops of color and her flair. You frame this very modern home before you get to the front door. So that's, I think, fun. It's a little personality treats. Yeah, that just come out. I love that. Really love that. So again, this is like the reason we're telling everybody this is so that you get a sense of where to pause. So you've come through the gate on the left, and as you do that, then you're going to come through this front courtyard or front area and take time to observe it. And then the door's going to present itself around. But while you're coming in, take time to look into the home, not just where you're trying to put your feet down and where you're going to take your shoes off. Because there's magic that's happening from the minute you start up those few stairs from the street. Yeah.
Again, like a lot of New Orleans houses, some of the issues of having this kind of room-to-room procession is you really don't want to go into that front room. It's weird to walk backwards through a house. And so a lot of these houses, you enter in the middle. It takes you through the side and in. In this case, you're entering as a setback vestibule, where you can descend down into that front living room space or go further back into more private zones of the house. There's a sort of special stair that we've designed, and then an open kitchen dining area that looks into the rear yard.
Yeah.
A lot of transparencies on either end of the house along the sort of axis of the lot.
But I think it is interesting too I think formally people expect to walk in a front door and be presented with the home. You're walking in the side door, which is the front door. You're presented with the home, you enter from the side, and then it's a choose your own adventure, right? You're automatically, when you walk in the front door, you have a living space on either side of you and a staircase in front of you. And the staircase was a very sculptural moment for us. And you can also see in either direction outside of the home. From the front entry, when you walk in, you can see out to the front yard, and you can see out to the backyard in either direction and see the pool on one side and the kind of the urban area down below. So that's just a lovely moment of pause when you first walk in and you're faced with the art that this client has.
And a choice, like you're faced with a choice. And I imagine that when you visit the home, you're guided to which way to go. Is it going to be the formality of the front room, or is it going to be into the back where it's going to be more relaxed? So you probably work out pretty quickly what kind of guest you are.
Yeah.
Are you being offered iced tea in the parlor, or are you being offered a glass of wine in the kitchen, kind of thing?
Yeah, that's right.
When you come into the home, if you're driving, so if you're the owner of the home, how do you enter the home there? Do you still come through this front door?
You do. So she parks in the driveway quite a bit. She's got a garage too, which the garage feeds right through the sort of middle of the kitchen. But I think she frankly parks outside a lot and goes through the front door. It's interesting in a way. You can think about the house as two kind of processionals. I think there's one that's very much about her. She enters the front door.
Yeah.
She's going through the kitchen space, and then towards the back of the lot, the terminus is her bedroom.
Yeah.
And the bedroom itself, for folks that visit the house, has this kind of amazing view. It's integrated with a pool wrapping around it, looking through a corner window, and also looking at the sort of back of the lot that has all this sort of stepped retaining walls with plants spilling over. In a way, that's the height of her kind of procession.
Yeah.
I think for folks that are, public visitors entering into that vestibule space, there's the two downstairs gathering spaces, but that stair also takes you all the way out to what you can see in this photo, which is this really amazing screen porch up on the second floor. It's one of we love screen porches. It's something we do in a lot of our work, and this is one of the most amazing ones we've done because it's living room size. So it has a couple of seating areas. It has hanging chairs and an outdoor kitchen, and
views of downtown
and all that. Yeah, looks over the treetop in downtown, which is neat. It's a neat terminus to that.
So when you come upstairs in the home, so I'm going, okay, so we're going to arrive on tour. We're going to come through the front door. I could choose to go straight upstairs and take in that screen porch by going upstairs and going left. Is that pretty much?
Well, if you go upstairs, there's actually.
Sorry, go right. Yeah.
If you're staying with our client and you're her guest there, you have your own little living room upstairs also. You come up to the top of the stairs and there's the kind of more informal movie room, media room. You can see some of her amazing art collections and like paraphernalia she's collected through the years, her music shows and just different pieces that are just amazing. And that's her personality is just, you'll see it in these little moments everywhere. So look at the art it's very personal.
Yeah.
And so you come up and you have that living area, and then there's a few bedrooms upstairs also with bathrooms, and then access to not only the screen porch, but also a wraparound deck that if you were staying in the home, you could actually go back down from the outside to the pool. I think for the tour, we're probably going to close that off just because safety and.
Yes, yeah. But that's really cool. So they can access the pool from upstairs without having to come back through the house.
Yep. So they can have a little sneaky. They also even have another deck that's in the backyard that they can hang out. That's not at the front of the house, a more private upstairs deck off the back that overlooks the pool area.
Okay, awesome. That makes so much sense. And then it allows that without coming through the central core of the home each time, being able to maneuver around. I love the screen porch thing as well. And I haven't seen tons of it in Austin. I've seen plenty of it throughout America. And the climate I live in, Australia, we could use screen porches all the time, and yet people don't. Tell me about that piece of it as well. Like, why the screen porch? What was so intrinsic, or what was the compelling factor of giving it, other than the view, obviously?
It's interesting. So I grew up in a house, a big house from the 20s, built in the 20s, and the whole front of the ground floor of the house was a screen porch. To get to my front door, you had to pass through a screen porch space, and it was long. And I don't know, it was probably 12 feet long by 30 feet wide. It was the whole front of the house. And in general, in places like New Orleans and a lot of places in Austin that have, frankly, a lot of mosquitoes, I think this is the fantasy of kind of modernism and opening up all the sliding doors a few times a year when the weather's nice. But screen porches are just a wonderful kind of functional way to be outside here that's necessary. And so we just thought, what an amazing space to have up there with a view. And it's funny, it's even in the heat of the summer, this porch gets really great cross breezes. So I find times I visit, I'm like, wow, it's really, nice here. It's shady.
The orientation faces south. You have really good ceiling fans. You can get the air moving through, and faces north. And you can just sit up there, and maybe you're not going to be as comfortable as conditioned air inside, but I think that you'll find that it's almost like a cozy comfortable up there.
Yeah. And you got the treetops as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really engages nature.
And,
I'm a big fan of screen porches, and I love the fact that they create a sense of intimacy out of an open space as well. And as you were saying, here where we live, you would open all sides of that, and the lights would be on at night inside, and then the bugs would come in. And with the simplicity of a screen porch, that wouldn't happen. And the same's happening here. As you say, you don't sit out there wondering if you need more mosquito repellent or any of those things, because that's taken care of. I love it. So do not miss on the tour, do not miss the screen porch. And take a moment to reflect on how you use it while you're up there. I think that's another really cool point about it. Take me anywhere, actually. You journey me from the front door.
I'd say that one thing that we haven't talked about, which with this client, when we first started designing, she had us out to her house, and she really talked a lot to us about how she was living, because she wanted us to be able to see kind of not necessarily her day-to-day life, but the things that she valued. She loved having these long conversations with her son and his friends, and sometimes those were as informal as everyone's getting up on a Sunday morning, and maybe that happens in different spaces throughout the house, and just allowing for like little sitting moments everywhere where you can have intimate conversations. And that was really important for her. And even in the kitchen, there's a moment for a small little sitting area for not necessarily a dining, but just like a sitting area where you're looking at the pool. In her bedroom, there's an area for a small little sitting nook. She loved the idea of looking out at the water. Like probably one of the most magical things is the pool wraps around the back of the house. And from her room, you can actually go out across a little bridge over the water into the back room. So she can go jump in the pool in the morning if she wants to, over a little bridge in the back, and, nice. Straight out of her bedroom, and see reflections of the water laying in bed. It's little moments where the light bounces up are just really magical.
I was about to...
Yeah. Next photo.
Yeah, I was going to say, with that light bouncing back off the pool into the ceilings of the home as well, you get all those beautiful plays of the water, and it engages not just the fact that you can see the water, but the water, its reflections on the ceilings. And one of the things I've got a question, because I've seen more photos than we're showing here, but with those photos that when people come, and she does have amazing art, and she has some big pieces of art as well as smaller, like you were saying, like ticket pieces and things like that from old festivals, concerts, etc. How are you going with organizing the space so that you could get the distance of view for the big pieces of art? In a shotgun block? Like, how did you go with that?
Yeah,
literally from the first design meetings, we had her furniture that she loved modeled in the model, with the big pieces of art in the model, so that she could evaluate like how it felt. So some of the pieces that you'll see were from our original first model. There's a woman in the staircase, and that was this very kind of linear painting that you can see. And then there's a huge painting in the downstairs living room behind this couch that she had that was just really beautiful. And those, we designed the space specifically for the impact of walking in there with those larger pieces. So it's very much a part of where we led the design process.
Yeah, and folks who've seen our last house, our Ramsey residence, again, we've been
Ramsey.
I don't remember my own home in Austin.
That's our house for you one day. But we've been lucky to have the houses folks come with us with art that's really meaningful to them, and we'll get that very early on in the process. So before we're putting any pencil to paper, we have that in mind, the size of it, the scale of it. the import to them.
And when
And
you're
so-
going to view it, like when you're going to view that art, because you put the art, say, like in that front living room, and the front living room has a view over the street and into the courtyard at the front. It has all those things. And at different times, I find this with clients at different times, the art is something that they want to observe. So when it's, say, nighttime, that art becomes the view more so than maybe outdoors. And they want to be able to observe it at different times and enjoy it at different times. And so when they're circulating around the home, getting these either long views or short views or up, whatever it is, and taking those points of interest, the art is like another window, but it's more demanding even. It's saying, please look at me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for folks that visit the house, you'll notice that there's a lot of thought about how the procession through the house is punctuated with the art. So when you go through the front door, you're greeted with a painting, and that was something that, so a painting of oysters. That's something that was on that wall from the very first time we showed her the house.
And then apple, she has a sculpture of an apple that is under the stair. And so we designed this special platform for the apple to be sitting on below the stair. So the stair was integrated with the sculpture that she has.
See,
That
I
she
love
loved.
it. Love it. These are the points that,
And then
yeah, sorry, I was going to say, these are the points that when you visit this home, take pause, see this. And if you're a collector of art or you have art, ask how your own home is doing this, or any future home, how it will not become a gallery, but it will be a gallery at the same time. It still remains a home, and you get to enjoy it in all those aspects.
And the home are the little stories too. Like one of the funniest things that I remember from one of our early meetings is that she has these knobs that are little skeleton heads with these like jeweled eyes, and she loves these cabinet pulls. They're coming with me out of this house. They've got to find a home, and they're there. I don't know if the room will be open. It's in her laundry room, but there's little skull knobs that are very much her, that are just these little delicate. And if anyone was just walking by, you'd just be like, oh, that's really random. But it's the client. It's the things that the client loves, and so you just have to figure out how to work these things in.
And I think those are fun details to hear about, because you might look at that and say, this is some random thing, but that's really something that was talked about early on before a lot of other things that was important. And there it is in the house, being wonderful in its own way.
I think that these are the points that shift a house to a home, and that texture of the personality, that you're designing a home for somebody, and the texture of their personality and their, I want to say quirkiness, it's not even necessarily quirkiness, just the intimacy of knowing them that well through the design process. You get to play, and they get to discover their things again with how you end up playing with them. It's like having somebody new come over and use one of your things in a way you've never used it before, and you go, and when we do that, it's that discovery. I think it's really
and
beautiful.
I don't know if you feel this with your clients, like for us in our process, like we love to be swerved by clients, right?
Yeah.
I have spatial aesthetic preferences. April does. We're two different people, two different designers, and probably if you put us on our own, we'll keep doing certain things over and over again that we feel good about. But the magic comes when a client comes to you with their own third set of things that you get to blend into something amazing. And that's, I think, what's really fun about what we do. And that makes all the projects a little bit different, is inviting that and letting people like take you places that you might not go yourself.
It's the intimacy too of that relationship. That's one thing I'd say, that residential, I didn't start out doing residential, and I can't imagine doing just commercial now, because the relationships and just how intimate it is with each client. Like you don't anticipate that you're going to become, it's like they're family members. Once you go through this whole process, you know them so well, the details of their lives in ways that they weren't expecting you to know, in ways that you weren't expecting to know. And it's always different. You never know what's going to come up, and it's fun. Like that's what makes it fun. So it stops being this kind of stressful unknown, which I think a lot of people think of when you're starting buildings. There's so many choices and so much complexity, but it's fun.
I think it is that piece, that is the joy of residential homes, is great people that you get to work with, and in that they reveal themselves to you, and you're revealing yourself to them at the same time. And in doing that, you get this symbiotic journey where you are on the journey of discovering them deeply. They don't need to discover you deeply, but you're finding yeah, but it happens, doesn't it? And it's a one to a few relationship, as opposed to in commercial, it's a one to many relationship. And there's a lot of sensibilities around how people might move or what the thing will do and how functional it becomes for its function. Whereas a home gets the quirkiness. It gets it gets all those other pieces that is the person whose home it is developed for them. I always think there's a challenge with that so she may live in this house for say 50 more years or something, and then the next person who comes and lives in this home, what they will fall in love with it, in the sense of at some point they're going to fall in love with purchasing it and making that decision, and they really get a journey through what you've been through in the design phase of it without knowing, without having it explained to them. And
I hope it's her son though.
yeah, I was probably saying the same thing. I hope it's me. Look, I think absolutely beautiful home, and I love the way you've terraced it, stepped it, created all those moments. And wrapping it up, I'd say make sure as you arrive on that street, take time to pause, take time to look up, see that screen porch, and then come up the stairs into the front entrance. And then you're in this fire-pitted courtyard area. Take that in, look into the house. So you're seeing into that living room as you circulate round to the front door. And as you come to the front door, this is her journey every day, and the family's journey every day if they don't go through the garage. So that then they're making their decisions, and you can decide to go left or decide to go right to start up with your journey through the home. But take time to also look at how the art's been organized in the home as well, because those are the windows that you'll be looking at in the evening. Like when it's dark, that art will be even more prevalent than it would have been the other way during the day. So I love that. I love the long views you've been able to create in this home. As you said, if you come in the front door and you look to the right, you get to look all the way down to the backyard, all the way. This kind of thing is magical. Magic. And the thought that goes into creating it, and creating it in the journey with a third party as well, is done a beautiful job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun. Fun to talk about with you.
It's gonna be fun to show it off.
Yeah, it is. I look forward to seeing you there. That will be really cool. It will be one of those things that seeing you there and knowing the story. For people on the podcast that are listening to the podcast, the story, you can go searching for the pieces, and it should give you a much more intimate feel about the home.
Yeah, I look forward to it for sure.
Cool, guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing you on tour.
Yeah, be great.
In the special edition that I'm creating for the Austin Homes Tour, which is in October of 2024, I have Casey Woods joining me. Now, Casey is the photographer who has photographed all the houses that the tour is going to do an expose on. Very excited to talk to Casey. Daniel Drive by Clark Richardson. From the photographs, it looks amazing. It looks like a home that you want to be inside as well as outside, like
yes,
one of those houses. Take me through the experience of it and the overall experience of it. And I believe you met the homeowner as well. So how it is their home?
I did. Yes, she was there for almost all of the photography, and she's so excited about her space, and it was just so lovely. I love it when I get to see the homeowners too. And she told me that one of her longtime friends came over and saw the house, and she said the house is a perfect representation of you, of who you are.
Wow.
Which is just such a wonderful compliment. Yeah, to the interiors and to the architect. She has amazing art and so much beautiful, amazing art. And I know that they factored that in to the
To the
design of the
design.
house
Sure.
and having space for it. And she just wanted it. It is just, it feels joyous. There's so much color. There's so much going on. There's this beautiful floating stairway that's in the middle of the house. But yeah, I'm going to share a photo of the living room of this. And it's just, I don't know how you can be in this space and not just smile. It just feels there's so much like lovely, like positive energy. And like I said, color and life. And there's so many interesting little pieces of art and interesting little things that the homeowner has around. And I feel like the design embraces that. It gives a place for all of that to shine, which is exactly what she wanted.
Yeah, and a beautiful view into the gardens as well.
Yes, and that's the front, which is lovely. Like you're looking now actually towards the street, but the way that it terraces up that you have this almost like private sitting area, this direction that still feels, yes, private, gives you a sense of intimacy from the street. And it's a lovely entry point for visitors to come into the house.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is always amazing, this lady whose home it is has an art collection, and with that, from a design perspective, you need walls. And in contemporary modern architecture, we tend to remove a lot of walls. And like you were saying, when Ed was designing, he had to design walls into it so that the collaboration between himself, interior, and also the homeowner, of course, that collaboration of knowing where things had to have possibility to go and make it work is a real challenge when you're designing. Without it feeling like a gallery and still being a home and having that vibrancy.
Exactly. And I feel like they really achieve that. And it feels like a lovely space to be in. And yeah, just has this like energy and this flow to it.
An art collection also often means that you want a lot of filtered light. You don't necessarily want tons of super direct light. And the art will be lit for at nighttime and stuff like that as well. So there's a lot of considerations that go into a home that is art filled, and this one is full of masses of personality. Like it's a big personality.
It really is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So I had to share one more.
To share this more, but yeah,
I know I have to share one more because I love the pool, but the way that it flows the water around the house. Yeah, and then there are this hallway that you walk through and you can see the water just outside the windows, and the master bedroom is on this back corner. And it's
so the master bedroom's floating in the pool almost.
It feels that way. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the tranquility, and
it's got a moat. It's got a moat around it. So do go and watch this on our YouTube channel so you can see this picture.
Yes.
The main bedroom here has a moat around it and looks like it's almost in the pool landscape. It is in the pool landscape. It's very connected. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's a really, again, I think people are going to love seeing the space and visiting it on the tour, because it keeps opening up to, it has this wonderful floating staircase in the middle of the house. And then each room reveals something else about, I feel like, the personality of the homeowner and the architecture. And it's lovely to see.
That's fantastic. As I say, I hope that the homeowner's there for the whole tour, so that people get to meet her as well and see how the space is her space, like that. It's an extension of who she is. And I think it's brilliant when an architect and interior designer can bring those two things together. So it is. It's like they say, people end up looking like their dogs, but that thing of like a house becomes a chapter of who you are. Home, it certainly becomes that. So in this home, your favorite space? or outside or both.
My favorite space. It might be that back area with the pool.
Yeah.
It was lovely. And the house, the design of the house and the windows and the way it frames that. Yeah, it was a lovely place to be, even in the heat of the Texas summer. It was, yeah, that might be one of my favorite. My favorite place is definitely on the outside here, living room, and there's a lovely screen porch upstairs that's
Oh,
on a
yeah.
balcony that
Yeah.
is that was also
I've seen
with one of my
photos of
favorite
that.
places.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great.
If you were on that screen porch, what would you imagine yourself being or doing?
Hopefully, if I was on that screen porch, I would just be being there. I would just be very present and looking at the treetops and feeling the breeze and enjoying that moment. I feel like it's creating an environment for that where you might not need to be doing other things. It's a moment where you don't need to be productive. You don't
Yeah.
need to be doing things. You can just simply be. And I think that's why I'm, attracted to it, for that feeling.
I always like to describe spaces like that as spaces where you can breathe out, because we tend to be in a life that we hold our breath a lot, waiting for the
Yes.
next thing. And when you find a piece of space where you can actually just breathe out, and there is nothing pressing, there's nothing that has to happen. It's actually just to be and breathe. And
Yeah.
It's magic, especially in a house with a lot of personality,
Yes.
with a lot going on.
Yes.
Fabulous. I can't wait. It would be a great house for a party, I feel.
It would be a great house for a party. I have a feeling that house has had or will have some parties. It just is asking to be filled with people, I think, and laughter and smiles and
Yeah, and energy. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
A designer is only as good as the projects you can win, and life is far too short to be consistently winning mediocre projects. So if you want to get yourself out of the rat race and start winning high-value projects for high-value clients, that's people who appreciate great design, go to my website, archmarketing.org, and download some of the free tools and resources and start winning decent high-value projects consistently. That's archmarketing.org, and help yourself to whatever you can find.